obviously, King David, we talk about, usually typically indulged his children too much. He let them get away with too much, and wound up causing problems. Because some of them may have been guilt, some of them may have been didn't have time, didn't spend time with them. Could have been a lot of things. Either way, he indulged them a lot like he did with Amnon. But then we get to Absalom. Absalom he treated very hard. We were talking about this today. That studying King David's life, there's so many examples God has given us, and how to hopefully raise your children this morning. Do not treat them differently. Are you listening to me? Do not treat them differently. Whatever commands or whatever expectations you should have them across the board for everybody. Do not treat one different than the other. Do not listen to me. Do not play favorites. Amen. Ask Joseph's daddy. That winds up causing problems in the family. You're going to have problems if you do this stuff. Do not favor one over the other. I love Bink down to Hoss the same way. Obviously Bink's on a different level right now than Hoss is. But as far as treating them the same, or my requirements out of them, especially as they age and so like that, is the same. I require Si to say, sir, yes, sir, just as much as I do Bink or Bubba. Okay? The commands and the rules are across the board. Do not play favorites. I don't love Bink anymore than I love Hoss. I don't love Hoss anymore than I love Bink or anybody in between. That's going to cause you problems. If you deal with children differently, the other children will know. And that child may grow up, Daddy didn't do that for me. Well, Daddy didn't do that for me. Well, Daddy didn't do that for me. And Daddy did all that for them. You can't do that. You'll cause family problems. Okay? You have to be the same across the board. If you buy one of them something for their birthday, you make sure you buy all of them something for their birthday, in other words. You try to be as fair as humanly possible with them. Okay, now, for time's sake, I'll try to make a long story short. Absalom had been away for a couple of years because after he killed Amnon, he fled. He figured, okay, great, David's going to want to kill me now. Okay, so he left. Joab, who is David's captain, also cousin to him, lines up going here. We got a problem. Absalom not being here, okay, he's in line to be king now. Not being here is going to have a tendency or an opportunity to rebel. Okay, because he's not here underneath his daddy, where he should be, being crown prince. There's going to be a chance for rebellion. Joab's looking out for David. So Joab goes and gets an old woman to dress up like an old widow woman and make this long big case of her son had killed her other son, and now the people want to deliver the other son up to be killed, and because of the avenger of blood and all that stuff in the law. And so she comes to David and puts all this big story out before King David that Joab wanted to stay with the king. And he said, well, look, nothing's going to happen to your son. Your son will be fine. I'll make sure of it. He'll be restored back to your house. And then she winds up questioning him, well, why haven't you done that? Okay? I'll make a long story short in this chapter. I'm trying to get there. Why haven't you done that? Why didn't you bring your son back home? See, David said the whole time there had been conflict. Okay? There's a lot of parents that have conflict with their children in the world we live in today. It goes on all the time. There's a lot of parents that have conflict with their children. You don't think you're the only one? In varying ages. There can be some 60, 70, 80-year-old parents that still got conflict with their 30, 40, 50-year-old kids. And sometimes they haven't talked in years. That's wrong. Okay? As a parent, you're the parent. Who's the daddy? I'm the daddy. Okay? You're supposed to go seek them out. That's your spot. That's my spot. As long as I'm here, I'm daddy. And my spot is, if I don't care what problem may be, what problem arose, I'm still supposed to be the example of Christ in my household, and Christ coming and found me. I didn't go and find Christ. And so, at being an example of my household, I'm supposed to go find them. I'm supposed to try to make contact with them. So what if they don't talk to me? Oh well, you still try. Wasn't there times you didn't want to hear from God? But God still convicted, and God was still working, and God was still calling. And He didn't give up on us, thankfully, praise Jesus. So as the parent, or maybe even grandparents, your responsibility is to continue to try to contact them, to try to make restitution. Not just leave them out there in limbo. You're supposed to set the example. You're the teacher. You're the one God put there as their parent. You're the one that's supposed to make contact. I know, right? There it is. You should never banish a child. Are you listening to me? You should never kick your child out and not have contact with them again. That's wrong. God does not kick us out. Praise Jesus. God doesn't give up on us. God does not banish us. God does not, God don't leave us out there in our sin or our limbo. God's going to make contact. God's going to reach out in love, in mercy, in grace, and He's going to guide us back to where we need to be. Do not treat your children that way. You want God to treat you that way. It's wrong. You'll have all kind of family problems if you don't. Now, Joab, of course, standing there beside the throne. All this is going on, this big old play going on, this old woman and everything for David. And I'm sure he asked the woman, did Joab have anything to do with this? And Joab said over there, well, now that you ask. Okay, she spills her guts, yeah. And Joab goes, look, I'm trying to get you to think. See, Joab wasn't necessarily worried about the father-son relationship being good. He was more concerned with the throne. And Absalom being out there and a chance for rebellion to challenge the throne, and not right in a wrong way, in a bad way. So Joab, he was loyal to David, but not in the purest sense. He was loyal to David as far as David and David's throne. Joab was always loyal to David on that. I'll give him that. Okay? And so that's what he was looking out for. So he tells Joab, okay, fine, go get Absalom, bring him back. Okay, Absalom went through, but not to see me. Don't bring him to see me. You ever been there? You almost forgave your kid? See, David was still upset that he killed Amnon. Okay? But David didn't understand. In Absalom's eyes, he did what was right. Because of what Amnon did. Okay? And your child may very well think they did what's right. And honestly, I can't blame Absalom for what he did myself. Okay? Your child, he or she may think they did what was right. And you might think they shouldn't have done that, but you still should try to make restitution. You still should try to reach out to them and go, look, I'm not saying none of that was right. You know what I mean? Amnon should have done that. I feel sorry for Tamar. You know what I mean? All that, like Tamar was King David's daughter. You know what I mean? And so all that was a mess. You ever been there? Your family ever been in a mess? It's just a mess. Regardless which way you go with it, it's just a mess. Okay? Nobody did anything right. You ever been there? Nobody did nothing right. I didn't do it right. They didn't do it right. She didn't do it right. The siblings, none of them did right. So now what we do? Now we got to ask Jesus to forgive us. Ask each other to forgive us. Go, look, I was stupid. We shouldn't have done it that way. It was all a mess. Let's make restitution. But that's not what David did. David said, you let him come back home to his house. I don't want to see him. What do you think that did for Absalom? Made a lot more resentment. Caused a lot more bitterness. You got bitterness in your family? You got resentment in your family? It's because we're not handling things right. Whether it be our marriage or our kids or grandparents or aunts and uncles, whatever it may be, all that stems off of nobody handled nothing right. And we've all got to come to the cross and go, okay, I was wrong. I think we want to blame everybody else. Well, it was their fault. They should have done it. Okay. King David wasn't right either. In the whole situation. He wasn't innocent. He didn't handle things right as daddy or as king. Because as king, he's the chief judge of the nation. He just let it go. He didn't say nothing. He didn't do nothing to Amnon. That was wrong. Okay? So nobody was right. The deal is, everybody's got to come to the cross. Everybody's got to ask for forgiveness. David didn't do that. So Absalom gets aggravated. He talks to Joab for a little while. Says, let me come talk to this. Let me get to see the king. Let me see the king. But Joab never answered him. Well, he set Joab's crops on fire. Lit his fields on fire. No, Joab, that really wasn't a smart thing to do. Okay? But yeah, he did it. He got his servants to do it. And Joab asked, what's the deal? What you set my crops on fire for? He said, I tried to ask you for a time so I can meet with the king. So I can set up a time to meet with the king. Joab, I think understood. That's why he didn't kill Absalom. And so he went back to him and said, look, what you doing ain't right. You need to set up time to meet with your son. And so they wind up meeting. And there's still, as we continue to go in the next chapters, in the coming weeks, there was still always resentment and bitterness there. Nobody forgave anybody. Okay? If you got bitterness in your family, if you got resentment in your family, if you got bad issues or Days of Our Lives soap operas, whatever it is, you got to move past all that, lay it at the cross, forgive each other, love each other, and go home. None of us has ever done everything right. None of us has always handled everything right. You got to lay it at the cross, say, I was wrong, I didn't handle it right, and love each other the way Christ expects us to. That's like all the kids go, well, he said, she did, he did, I'm going to stop everybody. Wait. I don't care. You're going to stop all that, you're going to love each other, and you're going to get along. That's what God requires. That's what God wants us to do. Forgive each other and move on. Love each other and move on. If you don't, that little bit of root of bitterness, that little bit of conflict is going to cause you a lot more problems on down the road as it did King David's family. You've got to forgive each other and move on. You're not always going to agree with each other, which is fine. We're our own men. Right? Me and Daniel don't have to agree on everything or how we would do something. We are commanded by our Father in heaven to love one another, serve one another, and be there for one another. Right? You don't have to agree. When people like, well, if you don't agree with everything with me, then then we can't be friends. Our families get to squabbling. You have your own likes and dislikes. You be your own man. Make your own choices. But you are commanded to love one another and serve one another. And forgive one another. And to go on with it. If not, you're going to have a lot of conflict in your family that you'll never get past. You've got to learn to love one another. Now, deal with that. Pause. Now, go to say, I know Daniel's going through Hebrews this afternoon, but you won't be here this evening, I don't think. Chapter 12. He'll get there one of these days. Hebrews. Hebrews. Chapter 12. Verse 4. Pause. Okay, ready? Ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. And ye have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. My son, despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. Has God wore your behind out lately? Has God ever wore your behind out? If you're his child, he's going to discipline you. He's going to correct you. He's going to set you back straight. Okay? Okay? If you endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? What daddy is there that doesn't chasten his own son? love them, you will discipline your children. There'll be times you might have to wear them smooth flat out. Okay? But no, this is the way it's going to be. It also depends on the hard-headedness of your child. Some children you can go, hey, quit. Some kids you might have to go around or two, okay, for them to catch on. That you got to pray about. God give you discernment. Go, how do I need to handle this? Okay. But if you be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then you are bastards and not sons. You're illegitimate. If God isn't disciplining you, if God isn't correcting you or rebuking you or straightening you out, because if you go to the mirror, we all need straightening out. We all ain't where we need to be. So if God's not disciplining you, are you his child? Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh, talking about our earthly days, which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? For they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure. Their own pleasure, like, yes, so quit. Go clean up your mess. Why? Because I ain't. Right? Don't throw your food. Why? Because you look like an idiot in the restaurant. Okay? For their own pleasure. Okay? But he, for our profit, we should get on to our children. We should discipline our children for the sake of the children. Do not get on your children because they embarrass me. And you flew off the handle. You think about the kid. Always in discipline. When you're disciplining your children, you think about the kid. That's what God does for us, right? That's what we just read. For our profit. When we discipline our children, it's to be for their profit, not because they embarrass me or whatever. Okay? It should be like, well, how do I need to handle this so if the outcome is good for them later down the road? Okay? That we might be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous. Hey, don't be upset. Who cares if your kid's mad at you? Right? Yeah. Have you ever got on your kid and they went, ooh, ooh. They didn't but once. Then we've learned to adjust that. Okay? Who cares if your kid's mad at you? What matters? Your kid hating you, or you teaching them what is right according to the Word of God? Later on, the goal is, if you teach them right, they'll come back around and go, thank you, that was an idiot, dude. Or mama, or whatever it may be, right? I was an idiot. And I'm thankful you was there at that point in time in regards to how my emotions were at the moment. I'm thankful you set me straight and did what was right and not cave into my feelings or my emotions or whatever it may be. You did what was right. Okay? God don't cave into our emotions. Right? Man, God, I can't believe you did that. God, oh, well, maybe I got on to a little too hard that time. I'm gonna back off next time. God go, oh, you got a problem with that? Oh, I'll fix that too. How long you want to whine about it? Yeah. How long you want to stay mad about it? Sure. God can fix all that too. Okay? For our profit, for our good. Right? Don't let your children walk off after you correct them, throwing a fit. Amen. Go. You got to correct all that. I ain't listening to it. God doesn't listen to it. But grievous. When you got to tell him what when you was a kid, was you excited about it? Both women this morning, this is right up his alley. No, I wasn't. No, it was grievous like, man, I got a belt. I got a switch. Yeah, the switches still work too. When you lost, the switch, they work great. Amen. No, it was grievous. But there. Nevertheless, afterward, it yieldeth the peaceable. We didn't talk about peace Wednesday night, wasn't it? Talk about God's peace. So, yeah, God's peace. You want peace in your home? You want peace in your home? Discipline your children. Hey, right here. Yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. If this is carried out rightly, you'll have peace in your home. If you discipline rightly, you'll have peace in your homes. Okay? Now, there's a few things in this one chapter once you get to it. We discipline. Why? To deter from destruction. I discipline my children to deter them from destroying themselves. That's number one reason. They will self-destruct if we don't discipline them rightly. Because the little sinful natures is coursing through their little bodies. You had a group of random 2-year-olds in a room by themselves all day and go off and leave and see what happens. Maybe the best 2-year-old win. That's what it's going to be by the end of the day. It's going to be a team-total free-for-all meltdown. Because nobody's there to guide, to direct, to instruct, and to discipline. Okay? You don't have to turn there, but I'm trying to say, Hebrews chapter 10, at the end of the Hebrews chapter 10, it warns and encourages those who draw back from faith. Okay? And God's will that they're destroyed. If you draw back, if you don't pursue the life that God has for you, if you don't obey God and listen to God, if you don't follow His leadership, if you don't follow His discipline, you will be destroyed. The very next chapter, Hebrews chapter 11, what we call the Hall of Faith, okay, is examples of those whose lives who were lived in obedience to the will of God and fulfilled God's will and listened to it. They were blessed. Okay? That's what verse 4 is talking about. Says, ye have, in chapter 12, ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. So what do you mean? I don't see any of us sitting here bleeding because we've been striving against sin that hard. How hard have we been striving against sin? How hard did you strive against sin this week? No, I don't see no bruises on nobody. I don't see no, nobody that's like sin. I battled sin so hard this week, I was sweating blood. No. We don't do that. Why? Because we're just like our kids. If we get away with it, or if we can be lazy about it, or we can not pay attention to it, or if we can ignore it's there. Your kids ever drag out toys and you say, go clean it up, they come back and say, okay, and you go back like, did y'all not see the toys? If nobody's there going, don't you see that toy? They're not ever going to see it. Nah, I don't see no toy. I clean my room. Your room ain't clean. I got a surprise for you. God does the same way with us. We go, I'm doing pretty good. I got it all worked out. I went to church every Sunday morning for the last month. God goes, you ain't got it all worked out. You ain't got it all together. What about this over here? That's what God does. He disciplines. He disciples. Okay? He corrects. He rebukes. He instructs. He teaches. This is what you need to do. And if we'll do that, we'll be in Hebrews chapter 11 one day. Will we stand before Him? Okay? If not, we're going to be destroyed. If we don't listen to Him, we'll be destroyed. Discipline lives reap rewards. If you don't discipline your children, they'll reap something. They won't be rewards. Discipline lives reap rewards. You cannot just go out here and live however you want to and do whatever you want to do. There has to be discipline. As a child of God, God knows, Hebrews chapter 12, but there has to be discipline in the family. Everybody can't just do whatever they want to do, or it's monarchy. But wait a minute. You can't do, we're not doing that. This is the way God set it up. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to obey. This is what we're going to apply. If we won't do that, there will be peace. Remember, you have to start from the get-go. If you don't start from the get-go, you're going to have a hard time later on. God can still do it, but it's going to be hard on you and harder on your family to do. It's like you plant a garden. It's a lot easier if you stay with those weeds from the get-go. It is there. there, you got weeds everywhere, and you're out there going, woo, can it be done? Oh yeah, but it's going to take a lot more work. Right? Okay. This Christian discipline is about watching your children in the direction they're going. What direction are your children going? Your grandparents listen to this too. You should be wise enough to pay attention where your grandkids are going. Okay? Which direction? Where's your child heading? With their personality, with their character, with their habits, with their demeanor, and we should be looking at, okay, how can I head this off? Biblically, rightly, out of love, to guide them where Christ would have them go. Right? Action needs to take place when you see them going the wrong direction. Mac's done real good. I'll brag on him. He's improved greatly the last couple of years. He got his temperament from his granddaddy. I'm raising my daddy all over again. He got his temperament from my daddy. And I've been there to lovingly help him correct that. And now, most of the time, I just say something to him, he's fine, he's gone on. But if I just left him to that, you know as well as I do, all you parents know that, if you just left him, when at 15, it's not cute no more. But it's cute when they're 5. I've been in stores before with kids that's throwing a fit and rolling around the floor, I mean, just going wild. I'm like, the men's section, you go over in the men's department, they got a piece of leather about that wide. And if you apply that just a few times, you won't have that problem no more. Okay? That's when they're young. Listen to me. That's when they're young. You've got to start from the get-go. The earlier you start, it's like weeding the garden. The earlier you start, the better off and easier it's going to be. Okay? Now, listen. Christian discipline always seeks the child's best interest. Okay? Always seeks the child's best interest. You might be correcting Matt. He can't just go off and do whatever he wants to do or fly off the handle with everybody. Right? That's not right. You can't go off and fly off the handle with everybody. Sooner or later, Brother Wayne will be out there watching you. Okay? You can't do that. Okay? Or somebody else is going to come along and knock you upside the head. Because they ain't listening to it. Right? That's not right. God does not want us to act that way. When you see an ungodly characteristic in your children, you're there to guide them back to where they need to be. That's not right. You don't treat people that way. You don't say that. We don't act that way. You don't hit each other. You don't treat each other that way. We're to love each other. And you're trying to guide your children. Now, go to Proverbs chapter 3. Stay with me real quick. You need to know all this. Proverbs chapter 3. Verse 11. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. Don't despise God's correction. Don't despise his chastening. He's doing it because he loves you. You need to be corrected. I know our flesh doesn't like it, and we don't want to hear it, but we all, I don't care how old, I don't care who the oldest one sitting here is. There's times our flesh does stupid stuff, and God in his great love corrects us, and we need to be corrected. All of us at different times. Don't despise that. Words and action. Words and action. Don't do just words. Don't just sit there and talk to your 5-year-old for 3 hours. Okay? You can talk to them. If they don't listen, you back it up with action. Don't do just action without explaining. Now, Grant, I understand that for Hoss, all he needs to know is no. Okay? But as I go, look, you know why this is wrong. You know why we don't do this. You know what you did was sin. You know what you did was wrong. This is why you're getting corrected. Right? Okay? The motive, listen to me, the motive in discipline is to express love. Hebrews chapter 12. God does it because he loves us. Sure. God does not discipline us because he hates us. The parent that does not discipline hates their children. If you do not discipline your children, you hate them. You're saying, I don't care. And you can take a room, I guarantee you go out there with a room full of prisoners, and you can get them to talk to you for just a little bit. You say, do your parents love you? And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of grown men sitting out there saying, I didn't have it at home. My parents didn't love me. I didn't have no family. I didn't have no home. I didn't have no rules. Nobody cared if I stayed out until midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Nobody cared. There was no boundaries. Your children feel secure and safe with boundaries. Sure. You're there to put those boundaries there. At times, will they act like little velociraptors and run up there and try to hit that fence and see if it's still there? Yes! But you better be that fence, and it better still be there. Okay? Carry it out. Don't just threaten. Don't just threaten. I'm going to tear you up. Because after a while, they use that. Your daddy can do it. You tear them up when they need it. I told you. They shouldn't get to the point where I say quit. Bubba knows I'll line him up like a Christmas tree. Or Matt, okay? Big, sister, they all know I'll light you up. It's not a threat, it's a promise. Don't, and we won't have a problem. Listen to me. One of the greatest ways you can love your child is to be consistent in your discipline. Consistent. Not get mad at them and beat them half to death in Walmart because they did something to embarrass you in front of all these other people, but you don't care what they do at home. It starts at home. Because if they're gonna act the way they do at Walmart because they act that way at home. You start at home. At home. You discipline, you set the rules at home, the guidelines at home, the consequences at home. It's carried out in the home. Be consistent with it. We don't lie. We don't hit. We don't do this. That's why you can go places with your children and not have to worry about it because all I got to do is look at them one time and they go, don't do that. Quit. Okay? The goal of discipline is to teach obedience. That's why God's disciplining us. To get us to obey. To get us to listen. For our own good. The goal of discipline is to teach obedience. By the way, when I say, go do this, they do it. Sure. I'll come in public. We went and picked up the 4-wheeler to go kart over at the Polaris dealer over in Tyler. We had some stuff done to it. And we get there, and I get out, and me and Matt goes in, Bubba gets out, he gets the ramps out, the straps out, and all that stuff. He comes in later behind us, and I pay for it, we go back out, Bubba's getting everything loaded up, he puts the ramps up, and gets the straps out, gets straps going on. Dude, the white Ford pickup pulls up beside me, he said, I want you to know, little man has got it going on. Amen. Go ahead. I didn't know it from Adam, little man got it going on. He said, you go with, you went. I said, here, you went in there. He said, he's getting ramps out, straps out, he's doing the thing. He said, he loads it all up, he got putting the ramps back up, he said, you did good. I said, praise Jesus. I said, yeah, he does what he's doing. That didn't come with me not disciplining him and instructing him and teaching him. He knows how to do that stuff. You've got to spend time with your children, and you've got to go, look, this is what I expect. I expected him to get the ramps out. I expected him to load the 4-wheeler up. I expected, we got home, I didn't load the 4-wheeler, I didn't pull straps off, he did. Him and me. I'll load that stuff. I'm not doing it, I don't ride them. y'all, I got it all, here you go, y'all go do it. I'm not doing it for you. You mamas, listen to me. Don't do everything for your boys. Let them do it. Well, they can break a leg. Oh wow. It'll grow back together. They have got to learn to do it. And part of that discipline is going, look, you've got to do it. I'm not doing it for you. I don't clean their rooms. They do. Alright? Don't baby them. You're trying to raise adults, not grown children. Right. Our nation's already got a lot of grown children that has no responsibility, is not responsible. The cities in the last couple of years have been burning, they've been burning down. How stupid is it? Now, there's times I might want to burn down Walmart. But how stupid is it to burn down your own Walmart? Right? Where are you going to, now we're buying toilet paper. Right? Now what are we going to do? That's stupid. It's foolishness. You have to disciple them. Okay? That's your job as the parent. Teach obedience. When you teach your children godly submission, you're teaching them to do the right thing for the right reason. We're doing this because this is what God requires of us. This is what is right. That way, when they're grown, I don't worry about what Ben's doing 90% of the time now.
Sure.
I'm not worried about why, because I know Ben. We have raised Ben. I'm not worried. I want Laura when she gets to be 16 or 17 or 40 when I finally buy her a car. Okay? I'm not going to be worried about her why, because I trust Ben.
Amen.
I raised them. I trust them to do the right thing for the right reason. Pointing them always to Christ and going, guess what? Regardless if I'm there or not, Jesus is. You ultimately answer to him, not me. For the right reasons. The way we act and live needs to become who they are. Right? The way they act and live needs to become who they are, not because you've got rules. There's a lot of kids who will go out and live in rebellion when they're away from their mom and daddy because that's not who they are. Your goal in raising them and discipling them is to get them to be who they are supposed to be in Christ. Now, you don't have to worry about your kids. A lot of parents worry about what their kids are doing. Well, that tells me you didn't raise them right. Right? If you're worried about what your kids are doing, you didn't raise them right.
That's right.
That way, when you're not around and the threat of you being there, they still do what's right. Okay? The result of discipline is short-term pain and long-term gain. Yeah, it hurts at the moment, but it's good in the long run. Okay? Now, who is supposed to discipline? There, Daddy is. Daddy is where everything stops. Daddy gets to be the jerk. Daddy's where everything you done done it now. Now you deal with me. Daddy's the last stop in the hall. Okay? Mama should discipline when she's there with them.
Amen.
Especially when they're little. When they're a word or two, you can't discipline them 3 hours later. They ain't gonna have a clue why you discipline them. Okay? You got to correct it then. That way they know, okay, that's not right. And now when they get older, they know, you remember what you did? You remember what you did to Mom? You remember you didn't listen to Mom? Now you know why you get disciplined. now you know why. Now you get it. Daddy is the last stop. Mama should discipline when she needs to, as needed, when they're with her, correct them, and Daddy is the last stop. Nobody else in Scripture is told to discipline your children. Ben has to worry about nobody else disciplining her except me and her mom.
That's right.
Why? Because that's our spot. Nobody else should discipline your children. Another reason, back in the day, you old ones talk about getting paddling in the school, stuff like that. My children ain't going to school to get paddling from somebody else.
Amen.
I'm the daddy. Now, granny, some kids need to be half baked in school because their mom and daddy ain't doing it. Right? If they have to get a beating in school, whose fault is that? It's on me.
Sure.
That's hard, but that's true. I'm not teaching them right at home. Alright? I'm the daddy. That's my spot. Nobody else. Period. Okay? You also, with that, grandparents, you're there to guide and you're there to instruct, but it's not your spot to discipline.
That's right.
Okay? You listen to me. Say, well, why? Because it causes confusion. Number one, me and this woman right here, we're in accord. We're in unity. This is our rules. This is our home. This is the way things are going to be. We teach our children that. If the grandparents may have a different opinion, that's fine. They can have that, but they're not their children.
Sure.
They're ours. We decide what goes on. And all our grandparents, both sets of our parents will tell you that. They decide our parents. If my parents or her parents had to get on our kids, whoa, we have to deal. They all know that's my big one. Ooh, right. You do what maybe Pop or Papa Nana tells you to do, or it's going to be bad. There's unity in the way we teach them. The grandparents can have their own opinion and even disagree. That's fine, disagree. They're not your kids. They're ours.
Amen.
My spot. Now, say, what about, you gotta look at this. When you get married, there's two sides. So Sarah and I was blessed. Sarah was blessed with the best in-laws anybody could have. I was blessed with the best in-laws anybody could have. Sarah's parents Neither set touches our kids.
Amen.
Why? Because that's our job. It's not theirs. Also, when you get family together, let me tell you something. Well, I look forward to being, I got 7. We can have 50 grandkids. I'm 4, okay? Biggie gets married one day. Over there. 40 years from now. And her father-in-law decides that little Justin is not doing what he thinks he ought to do. Let me tell you something. You better not walk up and touch him, because there's somebody's going to be getting a spanking and it won't be little Justin.
That's right.
Why? I'll gladly explain to him that's not your spot. That's hers and her husband's, not mine and yours. If we're going to step up into that realm, let's go outside. That's not the grandparents' spot. Are you listening to me? That's ours. Not mom and daddy, not her mom and daddy. That's ours. Are you listening to me, Blake? That's ours. Okay? When you have children one day, it won't be your mom and daddy's job. And it shouldn't be. Grandparents should not have to raise their kids or grandkids.
Amen.
You know how many grandparents have to raise their grandkids in our culture today? It's stupid. Because we're lazy. We didn't raise them right now. There's great-grandparents having to raise their great-grandkids. That's terrible. It's a shame to the family.
That's right.
It should not be. If you'll handle it right, you won't have no problem with the family. But like when Bing gets married, there's 2 sides. Well, if the other granddaddy has a problem with one of the grandkids are acting, he can come tell one of them. If he touches my grandson, I'm going to light him up. Why? I'll gladly tell him that's not your spot. I'm not going to light him up either. He's not my kid. I'll give him a hard time. I'll play with him. I'll throw him up in the air. I'll take him fishing. I'll spend a lot of time with him. But if I have a problem with him, I'll go, hey, man, you go beat your kid. There you go. It's not my spot.
That's right.
Me and Heather, you got extended family. You listen to me. I don't touch baby. Now, I'll pick him up from there, give him a hard time and all that stuff. Heather doesn't touch our kids.
That's right.
That's not our spot. If I see Petey running through here with a knife, acting like he was going to stab Brother Bill, I might go, oh, hell, you need to do that. But if I just see it, I go, hey, boy, what are you doing? But I would not touch him. It's not mine to touch.
Sure.
That belongs to the parents. And the parents are the ones who should step up, be responsible, and correct their children, raise their children, discipline their children, just like our Father does us. You don't have no problems. You have no problems in the family. You have no bitterness. Everybody's at peace. The grandmother, my mom has been told this many times, can go to a restaurant by herself with 6 little boys. And people go, I can't believe they're all sitting there.
Amen.
It's not because Mammy's sitting there.
That's right.
They know better when they get home. It's going to be bad. If you gave Mammy any lip, any problem, any mouth, anything you got in public, they know I have 0 tolerance. Maybe you don't have to touch them.
Sure.
If your grandparent have to discipline your children, there's something wrong at home. They're not doing their job. That's our job.
Sure.
Grandparents, listen to me. Grandparents, I'll be there one day, should be able to pick the kids up, go buy them pie, go buy them ice cream, go to the park, go to the zoo, go right. They should be able to do all that and have fun with them and not have to go, quit, stop, don't. Hey, there's a lot of grandparents that don't want to go pick up their grandkids.
Sure.
They'll be able to rely. They ain't gonna listen to me. They're gonna be crazy out in public. That's terrible. Well, that's terrible. Parents, be parents. Step up. Discipline. You love your kids, discipline your kids. And most of you here do understand all that as far as they go. They preach to the choir for the most part, but we need to be reminded of it. God disciplines us because He loves us. Okay? Conquer them by the time they're 3. Don't try to conquer them under 15. They're done grown.
Amen.
Okay? We still got some years with me to continue making her into a godly young lady, Lord, as far as it goes. But she was conquered about the age of 1.
Amen.
She didn't want to go in her bed and sleep. You know the guy who got to go in there and hold his hand on top of her back and listen to her scream until she went to bed when she was a little bitty baby? Didn't bother me at all.
Sure.
But she's crying. I don't care. She's going to learn to go to sleep in that bed. And that's where she's staying. She sleeps like a rock. And you know, I have no problem out her sleeping in her bed. Conquer them time they're 3. You won't have near as much problem as they get older. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the privilege you come out to study your word. Father, help us to be the parents you called us to be. Help the parents that are here be the parents you called them to be. Father, help us seek your wisdom. Help us seek your word. Father, help the grandparents that are here. Help them be the grandparents you called them to be. Father, help them enjoy the years of being grandparents and great-grandparents. Help them be able to take their grandkids and great-grandkids out in public and be able to enjoy it and not be a nightmare for them. Father, because that's a reflection on us as parents. Father, when we go places with our children, it's a reflection on us as parents. Father, help us to guide our children out of love, out of mercy, out of grace, because that's what you do for us. Father, give us wisdom, give us knowledge, help us to be the parents you call us to be. Father, I'm so thankful that you guide us, you direct us, and you lead us, and you teach us. Father, I ask that there's any wicked way in us, Father, that you would convict us of it today. Father, that you would discipline us if need be, and get us back where we need to be. So that we wouldn't be a stumbling block to our families, we wouldn't be a stumbling block to the lost world, we'd be the warriors of your kingdom you called us to be. Father, I ask you, that you might hear those laws, that you'd save them